Good morning and welcome to our midweek morning reflective service. Today's theme is forgiveness, and we're going to listen to our gospel reading followed by a short reflection. So sit back and enjoy the images and listen to the reading, which is Matthew 18 verses 21 to 35.
Then Peter came and said to him, Lord, if another member of the church sins against me, how often should I forgive? As many as 7 times? Jesus said to him, Not 7 times, but I tell you, 77 times. For this reason, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his slaves. When he began the reckoning, one who owed him 10,000 talents was brought to him, and as he could not pay, his lord ordered him to be sold, together with his wife and children and all his possessions, and payment to be made. So the slave fell on his knees before him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay you everything. And out of pity for him, the lord of that slave released him and forgave him the debt. But that same slave, as he went out, came upon one of his fellow slaves who owed him 100 denarii. And seizing him by the throat, he said, Pay what you owe. Then his fellow slave fell down and pleaded with him, Have patience with me, and I will pay you. But he refused. Then he went and threw him into prison until he should pay the debt. When his fellow slaves saw what had happened, they were greatly distressed, and they went and reported to their lord all that had taken place. Then his lord summoned him and said to him, You wicked slave, I forgave you all that debt because you pleaded with me. Should you not have had mercy on your fellow slave as I had mercy on you? And in anger, his lord handed him over to be tortured until he should pay his entire debt. So my heavenly Father will also do to every one of you if you do not forgive your brother or sister from your heart.
Our gospel reading today from Matthew contains a very pertinent question that we probably all ask on a regular basis. I know I do. Peter asks, How often should I forgive? Although Peter's question is specifically directed to others in the church, those with whom there already is a bond through their faith, the area of forgiveness weighs heavily upon people of faith in all areas of life as they seek to live in a way that is faithful to Jesus' life and teaching. Jesus speaks about the necessity of forgiveness because he knows the effect unforgiveness has on individuals and communities. There are so many situations within our society that, when not dealt with, can sow the seeds of bitterness and really fester. 2 years ago, in May 2017, we saw families and communities distraught by the Manchester Arena bombing, in which one man killed 22 people and injured hundreds of others. On last Friday's Radio 4 Thought for the Day, the Bishop of Manchester recalled how he had been asked by an American reporter 2 days after the event if, as a Christian, he could forgive the man who had committed this atrocity. He said that he couldn't. He was angry, and it was too soon. Reflecting now, 3 years down the line, at the stage where the bomber's brother has been jailed for at least 55 years for his involvement, and the Manchester Arena public inquiry has been opened, he described how he is still angry, but that the anger has been changed into one not against the specific perpetrator, but rather against those who poison young minds and try and justify such actions to others as a gateway to heaven. It is only love which vanquishes hate, and the remarkable outpouring of love in Manchester after the event and since seeks to draw communities together and surely shows that love and forgiveness can be the beginning of a new narrative in victims' lives. Unforgiveness, or holding on to hurt, only affects the emotional health and physical health of those carrying the wounds. Forgiveness should actually be a release. It's not denying our hurt or forgetting. The reading today also uses the imagery of a slave and his master, which I find quite uncomfortable given the discussions at the moment on past slavery. We certainly should not forget such situations, and indeed need to act to prevent such occurrences in our current society. But this is another huge topic. Should we forgive those acts of slavery and those who have profited from use of slaves in their past to build their fortunes? It has happened in the past, although there are still different forms of slavery today, and it is right that we ask as a society for forgiveness and mean that forgiveness. But I do believe it is even more important that we learn from the past and concentrate on ensuring such societal behaviour is abolished. But moving forward, in more general terms, it can become possible to forgive when we acknowledge the negative impact of another person's attitudes or actions in our lives and can simply move on. Unfortunately, the servant in this parable, although forgiven a huge debt himself, is unwilling to forget a small one and has no sense of the generosity shown towards him. For us, in the church, we are aware of God's grace and we know how we are unconditionally forgiven. We really have no excuse not to forgive, and keeping that perspective in mind should help us in our ongoing practice of forgiveness.